everyone. This is GT Time. I'm your moderator, Kyle Bossman, and joining us as always is our uniquely talented and knowledgeable panel, including, in his second appearance, Michael Huber.
Hello.
It's going to be a lot of fans fact-checking now.
To see if that was really his second appearance.
I think it is.
In his 33rd appearance, Daniel Bloodworth.
Wow. MC, I don't even keep count, so there you go.
And in his first ever appearance, Matt Blair.
Hello.
Which I will say, we had many requests for more Matt Blair in 2015. So
Where do you see those requests?
on his personal picks for the Game of the Year awards.
Explain that
Or
to
the
someone
Best
who
of
may not have seen
2014
that.
awards, yeah. Well, we had almost everyone sit down and give their own personal picks. Matt Blair was one of those people. And and a lot of people left comments like, this guy's cool. We want to see more of him. Why isn't he on camera more, etc.
Do you agree with those people?
Yeah, I mean, he's got his own thing. It's just, he's a busy man. I've tried to get him on the camera more.
It wasn't easy to pull him into this podcast today, actually.
Yeah.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Matt.
Let's just keep talking.
Are you sick of us? Yeah, talking around here. Yes.
No, I'm fine. Keep going.
So what do you think about Matt Blair?
Why have you not been on a podcast yet?
To be honest with you, these are the most time-consuming shoots, and so usually it's hard to justify putting 1 to 2 hours into.
It won't be
something
2.
like
I
this.
promise you that.
It'll probably be 2, though.
Okay.
No, it won't. Yeah, I mean, Matt Blair is basically holds the site together with duct tape, and yeah.
Running out of duct tape. Yep.
Yes, that's true.
Constantly running out of duct tape.
I saw that there's Duck Dynasty duct tape, though. So you can get a little of that to back up.
We're gonna have to get some orders in for that.
Michael Huber is sipping Gatorade today because he's a little under the weather. What's it like on your health scale? Where are you fitting right now?
A 10 being the best, a 1 being the worst. I'm
Yeah.
like a 6.5.
Oh, that's super good.
But 2 days ago, I
Super
was
good.
a 2.
yeah, okay.
The worst I've felt in years, like noticeably.
I mean, is a 10 the best, or is a 10 like your normal day?
10 is peak.
10 is peak
Because
hype.
I'm at
Because
basically.
peak health is like
No.
that
Peak height-
one day, when you had like trained for 4 months to climb a mountain.
Yeah.
That's peak health to me. I don't know.
Well, peak hype has to go up to 11, right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah,
But that jump from 10 to 11 is a lot bigger than that jump from 9 to 10.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm probably at a 4.4 every day of my life.
Yeah.
So that's why I think like 6.5 right now. Huber at 6.5 is still pretty good.
You're less healthy than Huber being sick.
Yeah.
Okay.
Aggressively
I believe
average
that.
constantly.
We got to start with some corrections. Start the new year with
This is
some
the best
corrections.
corrections ever, man.
This is what the what?
The best corrections. Oh my gosh.
This is the worst mistake I've ever made on the show.
Ooh, good.
Before the new year, on our last episode with Damiani here, I made a big mistake. I attributed Bloodworth's bet to Brandon Jones. And it turns out Bloodworth won another bet. That puts him at 13. Brandon didn't win. He didn't tie with me. It's good he's not here so he doesn't have to learn this truth.
When do we reset? Because these don't roll over, right?
We're resetting today. We're gonna
Reset today.
The score's been cleared.
So the score from last week will be the first point.
Right. And
Okay.
so season 1, Bloodworth's champion with 13 points.
I feel like your heart was just yearning for Jones to win.
How is this rotating seat point going to work?
when it's the
Do we
the
each
chair.
just keep our own points now? Like, does Ian's point become Ian's point because he might be on the show again next to me?
No. It's the chair.
Okay.
If anyone wants to take my chair when I'm gone, they can take my points.
Okay.
So whose chair am I gunning for right here?
That's the number 1 chair. We're getting a little too behind the curtains here, I guess. I just write number 1 for that seat right
Sure.
there. So your points would be.
I just want to know, who am I gunning for? Who
No,
am I
you're on
gunning
the
for?
rotating, so it could be anybody.
Yeah, you're
All right.
playing spoiler basically. You don't want any of these 3 seats to beat the guest seat.
I see.
Yeah. And correct.
But I'm the champion. I'm the defending champion.
Yeah, we
So
know,
there you go.
Blood. You're defending champion by 6 points. Blood never loses a bet. He's pretty
That's
good.
kind
at it.
of weird, slightly.
What is weird?
Because I'm also I've been in this business a lot longer than everybody else, so it almost feels like I have some weird unfair advantage. So you have to prove me
Here he
wrong. on
goes.
that.
All right, here he goes.
All right, so everybody else is the underdog.
Sabotage time.
It's kind of weird I win the bets most because I know the most. Isn't that funny that I know the most things? All right. Let's get to the news.
Unlikely betting nemesis become allies
Against Bloodworth? Absolutely. Let's shut him out this week. We'll figure out a way to shut him out of this win. let's talk about news. You know I love a game announcement. We got a game announcement very recently. I'm not happy about this one. I shouldn't have preceded that. We should get everyone else's opinion before my own. Puzzle and Dragons Super Mario Edition announced for 3DS.
For 3DS. That was the surprise part for me, actually. I mean, I knew that they put Puzzles and Dragons out on 3DS, but when they made that announcement, as big of a deal as like people were making of it on Twitter or whatever last night, I was like, oh, this is like part of that whole licensing thing and that Nintendo being on mobile. It's like, oh no, it's not on mobile. It's just another version on the 3DS. So I'm curious if it will eventually get a mobile version. But yeah, it's interesting.
So yeah,
because they talked about all of this, like the sales and the money that Puzzles and Dragons have done, and I don't know the figures off the top of my head, but most of that has been in the mobile context.
I'll use the one that
I don't know what the 3DS.
I'll use
numbers are.
the number that Joystick cited. $3.76 million a day as of April 2013. So I mean that's still a long time ago, April 2013. I suspect it's less than that, but Puzzles and Dragons.
Yeah, so
if you're not even
.06 the 3DS version.
Yeah, it's going to be. So I got a few questions, but I want to clarify if you're just listening to this podcast right now and like Puzzle and Dragons, what is that? Good question. It's a mobile game. It is an RPG, but what is played with sliding a puzzle on the bottom screen, about half the screen if you're on a phone. It is the type of game. And here's where I'm getting worked up already. It's the type of game where it's like, you're out of energy, don't play anymore unless you want to give us money. It is that type of game.
Will the 3DS version be like that, though?
That's a fantastic question that I'm curious about here. Will the 3DS have in-game purchases?
That's a good question. Because
probably not on that level. Yeah, I mean, I'd be curious to see what the differences are on the 3DS version that's already out.
Yeah.
So this is kind of a genre that I'm starting to coin, and a lot of people are starting to coin actually, about Match 3, right?
Yeah, it's Match 3.
This kind of a spin-off has been done before, and it's wildly successful, and that's Marvel Puzzle Quest. And it's on every mobile device that you could possibly own at this point. And so I don't see why we'd be surprised at something like this. This is kind of where the industry is going, I feel. But the fact that it's being on the 3DS, I think is smart.
I'll tell you why I'm shocked by this, Matt.
Okay.
Is because Nintendo makes games. Nintendo makes good games. They consistently say our games are better than iOS games like that.
Sure.
And then they're just like, oh yeah, we'll have Mario touching a little dragon on the box. They don't care about the game's design. They're not saying, oh, we want to be like Hyrule Warriors is like, hey, we're mixing with Dynasty Warriors. We can find something good out of this. This, I think they just like that name. I think they like that their stock rises the next day when it's announced that Puzzle and Dragons Super Mario Edition is coming out.
Yeah, I mean, it's totally a licensing deal.
Yeah. It's funny you brought up Hyrule Warriors because, like you said, it's like Dynasty Warriors, and this is the same thing. I think they're taking more chances and putting themselves out there because we all know the Wii U is not doing as well as the Wii, and they're kind of in a weird spot. So I think them taking chances on a mobile type game and a Dynasty Warriors type Hyrule Warriors is what they're going to be doing more in the future.
So you think that this could keep going?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean they've
mentioned
this in one of the investor briefings, that
where they do their slideshows.
They're going to be they're going to be less protective about their brands and do more licensing deals, and I think that's just part of it. I think somebody even mentioned that like Nintendo's not publishing this, Gung Ho is still publishing it.
Yeah. That's insanity.
Yeah.
Why? Why is that insanity, Kyle?
It looked fun to me. Like these are the types of game I want on 3DS. I don't want these big, like AAA, huge God of Wars and Last of Us's type games on a handheld. I want a pick up and play Mario Kart style, one round here, one puzzle here, handheld type game, and this looks fun to me.
Yeah, I do want to look into their model because it would be interesting to see if there are people that just really like that game. But don't want to be annoyed by that kind of thing that you're saying with the like buy more or whatever. And if the 3DS version just lets you play the game, then hey, like there's a reason to get that if you can play the game without being annoyed by it.
You're right. I would cool off a lot more if it is that kind of thing.
If it's like a $40, buy it in the store, you have everything.
Yeah.
Don't have no in-app purchases.
The thing is, the reason this game is successful, Dragon and Puzzle and Dragons, one puzzle, multiple dragons. Puzzle and Dragons is popular is that it has those stupid little, hey, speed this up with some money, microtransactions.
Sure. Right.
That's why it makes millions of dollars a day.
But you look at something like Marvel Puzzle Quest, which is, I guarantee you, far more successful than I think the original Puzzle Quest probably was.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Like, tying that franchise into it, great idea, because you get people into it that didn't realize they even liked that kind of a game. So
Yeah.
I think that Nintendo probably should consider maybe letting them put that on mobile devices, and maybe they are. Maybe it was a stipulation for them to put it on 3DS first, so that people go out there and be like, okay, I'm going to buy a 3DS so I can play this new Mario game, whatever, fine.
I like that theory.
I don't
No, gotta
like
say,
that.
I like that theory. That's a good
But
theory.
that's entirely possible because we see the same thing happen with timed exclusives all over the place, and Nintendo hasn't really had a lot in their hands with timed exclusives.
Especially if it's published by Gung Ho. Like, there's no reason for them not to put that on an iPhone.
Mario is like Disney. You know, you have that ace up your sleeve. You can put that name on anything and merge that with anything, and I think it'd be a huge
Well, just look how well
moneymaker.
Amiibos have been doing,
Yeah.
man. That's kind of in the same vein of like them going into another market,
I guess.
and it's doing well because, yeah, like they're recognizable and people of all ages kind of want them.
I guess so. What is weird to me is like, this is already their domain. It's a 3DS game. Maybe if it goes to phone, it would be more significant. It'd be like, hey, Mickey Mouse is going to be in the next Shrek movie. It's Shrek and Mickey Mouse hanging out. I'd be like, no, what are you doing? Because that's already, movies are already their domain. Video games is already Nintendo's domain. Like, toys weren't. And I think that is, Amiibos makes sense to branch out into. But branching out into match 3 mobile games, it really gets me.
Is it that big of a problem?
But they've had Dr. Mario and all. They've done a lot of those spin-offs themselves. I think they just saw this as an opportunity of, hey, let's do some cross branding.
Let's not forget that it could go both ways. Like for Gung Ho, maybe the match 3 isn't that big in Japan, but consider how many people hold.
No, I think it's
some kind of-
actually as successful or more successful in Japan.
Even
it's
so,
huge.
that's
Yeah.
a vehicle for them to push software on a huge hardware market. Think about how many 3DSs are in Japan right now, and how many people use them and play them. I mean, that's why you see Pokemon on 3DS all the time, right?
Yeah.
So why not keep putting software out there for it? And this is one that's kind of easy. It's low-hanging fruit for Nintendo at this point. So if this low-hanging fruit is a way for them to make their stock price go up,
And it did.
then why not do it? Is it not the lesser of all the evils, really? If it allows them to keep making all of the Star Foxes and Zeldas and stuff every 10 years.
Yeah, because they're really
Okay.
just putting a Mario skin on a game.
I'm going to choose to accept this. It's more than that. They are implementing like a world map and things.
Yeah,
they're
they're
doing
doing a
some
little bit
interesting
more
things
with
with
it,
it. So I'll try to be a little less prickly about it going forward. Thank you, panel, for being rational and helping me through that moment.
Yeah, we were all pretty positive about
Yeah, I
it.
appreciate that. Next news story. Sony announced that the PlayStation 4 sales sold to people have surpassed 18.5 million. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
That's really, really crazy. Basically, what I wanted to bring this up for, we already talked about how crazy these sales are. I wanted to compare it to the Wii. The Wii, in its first year, sold not to people, but to retailers, 20 million.
That was the people.
Oh, because you think it's sold
They're
out
always
everywhere for that
constantly
first
sold
year?
out, yeah.
Yeah. So I think they're comparable, though. I think that you could compare this to the Wii. I think, though, when the Wii came out for that first year, there was more of a feeling of it being a phenomenon.
Right.
It felt like people were talking about it in the news. It felt like a huge deal. PS4, in my personal case, and I'm wondering if it's yours as well, doesn't feel like a phenomenon yet. And I'm curious how you all feel about that.
Well, it's like there's a couple things. I think first of all, it's like look at graphics now. Mm-hmm. Remember the jump to HD? Graphics were just blowing people away. Everyone was freaking out about graphics. And now, even though games look better than ever, people just dismiss them. They're not as fazed by it. And I think because we already did those 20 million sales, and now PlayStation 4 is just kind of replicating that. It's been done before, so they're kind of just business as usual.
Do you think it's business as usual? It sold 18.5 million consoles?
Oh, I kind of have two thoughts. First of all, I think, yeah, with the Wii, it became a story largely because they were sold out all the time. Like, that was one of the big deals about it.
Yeah.
And
it builds a story, basically.
Yeah, I mean, and manufacturing has come a long way. People, like there have been a lot more of these high demand products. The iPhone's come and gone since then, and we've had more and more iPhones every year and whatever. And then, so like that part of the frenzy of hard to get, just sort of like with the rare amiibo, it's people are going nuts about Villager and Marth and stuff because you can't find those. And then all of a sudden, photos pop up from Europe, and they're like just on the shelf in Europe.
So what does that mean? That they're not
But I mean,
creating a
it's
story
the
with it?
rarity. Yeah, the rarity kind of creates kind of this extra amount of buzz to where even if you're not going for it, you know about it, or you have a friend that wants it. I also think the Wii had a better, probably spread demographically. Moms wanted it, grandparents were
Families.
playing it.
Yeah.
Like Wii Sports was a new thing that kind of crossed the generations and the boundaries.
Who do you think is
Whereas
buying
I
PS4s?
think, I think PS4s, I think it's partly, it's still very much that core gamer audience, but it's just there's like so much more of us now, right? Like we're, like a lot of us are adults and can just like go out and buy our PS4 now. So it's not like mom and dad trying to rush to get their kids a Wii. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm ready for a new system. I'll just go out and buy one.
Matt, do you get the impression that it's not like, yeah, mom and dad are buying me this anymore? It's like,
Oh, absolutely. But
Yeah.
the thing is with the Wii, it kind of dipped into different markets, additional markets, I would say. Because
Yeah.
remember the price point when it came out, $250,
ridiculous.
right?
Yeah.
It's kind of an impulse buy when you compare it to, especially at the time, the PS4 and the Xbox, which were up at $400, $500 at the time. So that right there kind of puts it into a different market. I could see that they were always selling out because it's so easy to buy.
Yeah.
And Nintendo had a better pedigree than everyone else at the time too. So when you consider that when somebody says to an adult, I'm going to buy the new Nintendo, you're thinking Mario, you're thinking all these games that you've been playing for the last 20 years. That's pretty easy to pay $250 for a system that you have the promise of this history on.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
I think if you say I'm getting the new Nintendo now, people would be like, "What are you talking about, man? Like, what is it? What are you referring to?" I think you're right. I think it doesn't work. That doesn't fly anymore, basically.
And I feel.
Well,
sorry, go ahead.
no. I mean, when you look at the lessons we learned in terms of PlayStation over the whole console wars of the last generation, we learned some pretty important things, and Sony kind of nailed them. Right? Lower price, get it out first. That was a huge deal.
Also, easier to develop for, I think, is probably the most important
Easier to
thing.
develop for, also huge
Yeah.
on the back end. But like when
Yeah.
you talk about a consumer's perspective, you could argue that there wasn't a whole lot of software out there that made any sort of system seller movements, but they still sold close to 20 million units. And I think the reason for that is they got it on the shelves first, they got it out there for a lower price, and the longer it's out there for both of those things, the more tempting it is for somebody like us to be like, I skipped, think about all the people that skipped the last generation too. There were actually quite a few people who just went with PC and didn't really want to get into the console wars.
A lot of people bought a Wii,
A lot of people bought a Wii.
but they were the grandmas. Those were our grandmas.
I think that you probably have, and it may not be as significant, but you probably have a decent portion of those sales people who actually didn't buy into the last generation,
Yeah.
who are finally thinking, okay, well, now they've finally gotten their stuff together, and I'm going to go ahead and invest in this one. Like, this is the leap that I want to make. Add to that all of the people who bought a 360 because they did that same thing last generation. Like, well, now I want to catch up on PlayStation. I think Sony actually did a fantastic job with this console generation, and I don't think you can overlook that when you think about their sales.
I still think Sony is lacking that big mascot. You have Nintendo, you have Donkey Kong, Mario,
30 mascots.
Zelda, millions,
Yeah.
right? And then you have Microsoft, you have Master Chief, like carrying the name Xbox. And then you have Sony, you have Nathan Drake, and Kratos isn't very marketable. He's all blood and guts, blood everywhere.
And Nathan Drake's face keeps changing.
Yeah, so they have no
It's all about his hair.
brand. They have no mascot carrying it forward.
I kind of get that. especially even like in their advertisement right now, it's those two dudes on the basketball court and like, yo, I'm Kevin Durant. Yeah. It's like, wait, what is this? And like they basically go through like 3 games and spend half of it on Destiny. And you're right, there is no like particular brand I could pin on it right now.
Yeah, but they still, I would say, I think that they have more. I think they have the variety there. I think their issue would be that they're not kind of pumping those games out. Now, for a gamer, that's a good thing because you get a better product in the end. I would say don't rush out an Uncharted every year. Yeah. Don't rush out
a Ratchet and Clank.
Ratchet and Clank, even though they could really do with one right now. Yeah. But the thing is, even Ratchet and Clank isn't that household name that you're talking about, right? But do they really need it? Because without that, they've sold 18.5 million units in the first year.
Last of Us sells 8 million, you know what I mean? Those will never be mascots, but it sells really well.
I think they're in that game where they're in the console wars still because that's their business. They have to kind of get those factors right for their console to be successful, whereas Nintendo, they did a few other things right, but having those key franchises is what really moves that hardware, and I think they understood that with the Wii, which is why it was $250.
You know, I was going to save this story for later, but I think it's bumping into what we're talking about now, so let's bring it up. So a Majora's Mask limited edition was announced this week. Sold out immediately. Just gone. And you know, it was for sale in 3 particular retailers. Fry's, GameStop, and one other.
It was on Amazon, right?
Amazon, yeah. Those 3. That was the only place you could get it, and Fry's not even that day. Sold out immediately, just gone in a second. Our beloved Michael Damiani talked about this at great length about his frustration. But
he didn't get one?
He did.
He got one?
He got several. We shouldn't say he got several. But he said, he's like, I got to back up one here. I'm just being safe. I got to back up one here. This is what he does. He'll do it for every Zelda item. He'll order multiples just so he makes sure that one comes in on time. Yeah.
But as a consumer, he's just making sure he gets what he wants. Let's be honest.
Awesome.
And so what happened here is it's a $50 limited edition of Majora's Mask for the 3DS. Includes a statue of Skull Kid wearing Majora's Mask. That's actually looks very, very cool.
Yeah.
Looks like a thing we would beg for, in years past. It's like, wow, they did that. They didn't make enough, clearly, or did not expect that we would want enough. And again,
they're actually making a limited edition, unlike everybody else. It's like, here's our limited edition.
Yeah.
Still on
is actually
shelves 2 years later.
You're right. It might be called Collector's Edition. I'm not sure. Collector's is a little more fair, isn't it? But it ties in well to, you know how I do, well, you're the one who started this conversation. Matt, it's your first time on the show. This is a segment where we take any one comment and they say, like, I would like you to talk about this. And then that segment is called, well, you're the one who started this conversation. There's a person named Stick Shipley who asked a question that we never got time to about the GameCube converter. Same issue. This keeps repeating. Amiibo, Majora's Mask, GameCube converter, not making enough. And with Amiibo, I could see maybe like, oh, they're trying to raise demand like with the Wii. Like they're trying to create that story of demand. But with that GameCube converter, the one that you would play Smash Bros. With, didn't make enough. Sold out almost immediately with that as well, within days. And it was clear just not looking at the market right. What do you think is the issue here? With Majora's Mask, with the GameCube converter, what's up with that?
I think the GameCube thing was a separate issue. I think they just completely underestimated the demand for it. And,
I think that maybe they are kind of the Amiibo and Majora's Mask. I think maybe in a sense that they are sort of underestimating how many collectors there are, because I think they've probably, with the Amiibo especially, figured that, let's not make too many Wii Fit trainers because who cares? And then apparently there are a lot of people that care just because they want all of them.
No, are they pinching pennies? Is that why they're not making these? Like, how much?
You think about it. It's a risky proposition, and then Majora's Mask, there's a lot of love for it amongst the Zelda fan base, but it also is not, the most popular Zelda in the world. It's kind of a weird thing. You're like repeating the same cycle over and over. It's a weird sell to certain people.
So you think that was part of their deliberation when they're like, hey, how many of these units should we make? This is a weird Zelda. We shouldn't make that many.
To a certain extent, I think we're being a little bit presumptuous in thinking that they have direct control over how much they can make under a period of time.
Sure, especially the statue, which is like unique and not for sale anywhere else.
Let me pose a question to you.
Okay.
Especially if you think about this from Nintendo's perspective. If they come up with an idea somewhat late in the game, or even if they come up with it first thing, and they're not able to manufacture enough to make sure that they could hit this crazy demand that actually came up for it. I mean, if you were Nintendo, would you come out and say, look, we literally just couldn't build enough, but there are more coming? Or would you just say, there are more coming? Nintendo is the type of company, you know this, where they would never just talk about the back end of what they're doing. They just want you to enjoy the products they put out, and they don't think the consumers are interested in the details of how many units they can ship every day, this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah, with the converter, it is, you're right, their message right now is more coming.
More are coming, and
Yeah.
obviously that means that they're just trying to manufacture more. Now, one time in history, we do have that issue where, what was it, the cell processor and the Blu-ray drives for the PS3, they just couldn't manufacture enough, and therefore they had to, like, what, did they push back?
I forget.
The release, there was drama around the fact that they just couldn't manufacture enough. Similar thing happened with Blu-ray discs, like
Yeah,
manufacturing.
yeah,
That was
I
a
forgot
very,
about that.
very public issue that affected a lot of different hardware and software releases. And we knew about it from day one. The thing is did that make a difference to us? I think it kind of did, right? Because
Right.
people didn't blame, maybe if Metal Gear didn't release enough because they didn't have enough Blu-ray discs, would we have blamed Konami for that if we didn't know that there was a shortage of Blu-ray discs?
Absolutely.
I would have
like
blamed
that?
somebody.
Yeah, we would have blamed somebody, absolutely.
So are we getting to the point here where we actually think that Nintendo needs to be more transparent about this sort of thing? Or does it even matter?
Yeah,
Does
I
it
don't
really
know.
matter?
We're pounding our fists like Huber did. We're mad.
Yeah.
We're mad that we don't get that Majora's Mask figure.
I have Super Smash on Wii U, and I don't have the adapter. I've played it once. I played it once with the gamepad. I was like, I can't do this.
You feel like it's incomplete?
Yeah, I have my GameCube controller that I bought in the store because I have plenty of those,
Right.
but I have no adapter to use it with. So my question is, if they have so many of these controllers, if they have such a surplus of those, how do they not have the adapters? Because you would think people would be buying more controllers, like 1 or 2 or 3 per household, and only one adapter.
Well, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. It could, and probably is, an entirely different factory in an entirely different area that's manufacturing these things, and maybe their output is just not big enough. If it comes down to being that simple, then maybe Nintendo should just say something if people are actually getting cheesed about it. But at the same time, does it really matter? Because they're telling us, it doesn't make a difference whether they tell us or not. We're still going to get more at a particular time when they can get
It
them
kind of matters. You shouldn't have a product that sells out in one day all the time.
Yeah, and it's a bummer because of the timing. I mean,
Yeah.
it's winter break for millions of people. It's the time when everyone can play games, when everyone is together playing games. Everyone wanted to play Smash and needed that GameCube adapter, and they didn't have it. And
You don't need it, but you want it
a lot
really
of people
bad.
prefer it. Some people need it.
Blood, what's the solution? What can Nintendo do to better gauge how much they're going to produce, or how much they can, like how much people will buy? Do you know what end do you? What's the fix?
It's hard because I think they very very well be reacting to what's been a shrinking market and not wanting to risk too much.
Yeah.
And now they put out these things that are hugely popular and
The amiibo you're talking about in particular?
Well, no, I think all three. It's
Okay.
like these are like spikes. And they've been seeing both on the 3DS and the Wii U. Like kind of dwindling market share, and then all of a sudden it's like this interest comes sort of out of nowhere. So I can imagine it being really hard to predict. I mean, you don't want to have a warehouse full of Skull Kids.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you do with that?
And to be fair, internally at Nintendo, they clearly have not valued Majora's Mask as much as we have over the last 15 years.
Absolutely.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
it took them a while just to admit that they really needed to do this. And once they did, they kind of sheepishly started kind of showing us as like, hey, this is a really cool thing. By the way, we're changing a lot. We're adding a lot to this. They're kind of being careful about how they're releasing this, and they're trying to promise like it's worth it, when all along we've been begging them for it.
Yeah.
It does bring up the point that like the next time they do this, maybe Star Fox or Zelda or any of the things that they're promising coming out this year, they should probably spend that extra money to try to make sure that they can meet the demand.
And you know what? I didn't even think about this. What Bloodworth just touched on is retailers. You know what? Those 3 exclusive retailers may have just been the only 3 people who were willing to stock this item.
Right.
Because I think they're probably just as skeptical about Nintendo. You know what I mean? They've been stocking Wii U's for the last 2 years, and they're like, hey, these aren't moving off the shelf, and they're taking up shelf space, Nintendo. We
Yeah, I
hate
mean,
you
that
for
could be a
this.
really big part of it is
Yeah.
like how much are people
Yeah.
actually willing to buy up front.
Right.
And and that's all, Nintendo can can get out of orders, and then they order from their factories, and then it turns out demand is way higher.
So we need to talk to retailers as well and say, hey, we obviously want those Majora's Mask.
Well, we are talking to retailers
Yeah.
when we pre-order them out in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
you know, let's not forget that part of the industry, and this may not go so much for Nintendo, but others. Destiny, for example, did they say it was the most pre-ordered game in history, or they tried to say something like that?
In the U.S.
In the U.S.,
And maybe in
at any
history,
rate,
actually, yeah, whatever.
it is part of the strategy nowadays to say, all right, there's going to be a pre-order, you're allowed to sell this many units now. And then they realize how quickly they got there. They're like, that's how they measure how many more units they give to that outlet.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's part of the strategy. And it makes sense because that's how you start to gauge
Because
the
we are
demand.
talking about something that's sold out that's still not out for months.
Yeah.
Yes. However, when people started pre-ordering Destiny, that was
Years ago, before it even came out.
They were pre-ordering a way different thing than the thing that
Yeah.
actually came out.
Years.
Whereas I think we can at least look at the Skull Kid statue now.
Right.
Well,
It's
But
not
I mean,
that.
scaling the amount of discs you print is different than
Oh my
scaling
gosh.
how many
collector's
statues,
editions
yeah.
and
Yeah.
kits, like you order them in waves, right? You always do that because you're not going to order 50 million and then hope that you sell them all. You're gonna order the first 10, you're gonna order the next 10. Not exact numbers for any particular example, but
Yeah.
you get the idea.
I hate that though. I really don't like that. It's a business driven by pre-orders.
But it's a business driven by business because they still have to make money, and they don't. You know, they can't be wasting money at every turn.
That Halo 5 box. That box is just like, hey, you're pre-ordering a big box. I think it's like $250. We don't know what's inside yet. Well, they didn't say that. It's like you don't know what's inside yet, but here's what it will look like. I'm assuming they don't know what's inside of that for sure. They have not
Probably.
solidified what's inside that box
A
yet.
Master Chief helmet or something.
Again, that's what they did for Halo 3, I believe,
Keep
right?
doing it.
Yeah.
It'll sell.
It'll be the other guy. The guy who's on top of the box.
And the Call of Duty boxes every year, I mean, they've actually gotten scaled down.
They
And
really
I think
have.
that's a
Yeah,
reaction
yeah,
to
yeah.
the demand. You know, people don't necessarily want to spend $200 a year on their favorite franchise.
Yeah.
Or if they do, they're going to
amazing.
spend $100 on the game and then $50 in digital purchases, which make a lot more money for Activision.
Yeah.
Does this
for
freak you
example.
out, this whole pre-order thing?
Freaks me out always. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I think
Especially after a year we
When's the
had.
last game you
I think now it's so
pre-ordered?
much easier. Like, you know, it's like what one-click purchases on Amazon are like, boop, that's mine.
When's the last time, Bossman, where you pre-ordered?
You're not gonna like this. I pre-ordered Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze.
Which you probably didn't even need to. You
Yeah, I know.
go to the store.
Yeah, you probably would have had it quicker just not doing that.
All right, let's move on. Sling TV coming to Xbox One. What is Sling TV? Another fantastic
question,
question. Who would know? This is Dish Network, you know, satellite network, cable provider. Well, I guess it wouldn't be cable; it'd be satellite.
Same thing.
It's their initiative to sling to you like cable networks like ESPN, Cartoon Network, Disney Channel, Food Network, etc., for $20 a month, which is frankly a steal.
Yeah.
Getting ESPN alone for $20 a month is a steal,
To those who want ESPN.
which are many, I feel like.
Yeah.
But that is my first question to the panel: is like, would you bite on this? Are you a potential customer for something like this? Huber seems like yes.
Yeah, because I pay for cable. I'm one of the few people I know that actually has cable, and it's like $160
So much.
a month.
That's so much money.
You know, I split it with my roommate, so it's like $80 a month.
And you're getting internet with that, though, right?
And I'm getting internet.
Let's be clear
Yeah,
about what
okay.
you're
I'm getting internet.
Sure,
too.
sure.
But I use it a ton, you know. I DVR a ton. I watch every show imaginable. But it's funny that they mentioned Food Network in there and ESPN, because I feel like those are the two channels I watch the most.
Wait, what do you watch on Food Network? We've never talked about Food Network.
Food Network is my
my
go-to-sleep channel. It's my
Okay.
like
That's
throw
cool. Yeah,
on
yeah.
Chopped or throw on, you know,
I
Iron
fall,
Chef.
I fall asleep to Finding Bigfoot for whatever dumb reason.
So you're a cable. You pay for cable as well, then?
I don't pay for anything. I just reap the benefits.
Wait, what does that mean?
My roommate has
There it is.
DirecTV and a billion movie channels, and I just watch them.
See, that's the best solution. Find somebody else to pay for everything.
Blood, what does what does your roommate say when you're mooching off that cable?
Nothing. He put the box in the room. He's
Okay.
got boxes in every room for everybody.
That's a cool roommate.
Serious.
Do you know how much that bill is?
No.
Oh, I bet it's ridiculous like Huber's bill.
Well, like that's what is that? That's $20 a month. So
I mean, it's probably figured into my
$240
rent,
a
but
year?
whatever.
And it's cool. It's like Netflix in that you could cancel it at any moment. Unlike cable or
month-to-month contract.
month-to-month. Exactly.
Yeah, if you combine that with Netflix, so if you have Netflix and Sling TV, what do you need
I got it.
cable for anymore?
So what Hero would be missing is I think HBO.
Which is also going to have a standalone.
It's gonna
but
go.
now
It's gonna go
you're-
on its own. Yeah.
Yeah, you're just
Yeah.
Let's talk for a second.
okay.
Just 1 second, because
Yeah.
I've heard this conversation 100 times before, right? Hulu was a similar conversation for something like this. And the service that you pay for, you still have to watch ads,
Yeah.
right? So it wasn't what everybody kind of hoped. But there's also a limited amount of content on it. You can't watch every episode that's come out this year. It's only the last 5 episodes. And,
Well, not on Hulu
and
Plus.
you can't watch it on certain devices. No, Hulu Plus is the same thing for
No,
a
I love
lot
Hulu
of
Plus.
content.
I love it.
It is great.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it's terrible, and I'm not saying people shouldn't pay for it or enjoy it.
Yeah.
But what it isn't is a replacement for cable, right? And what it isn't is or what it is a giant asterisk being like, we're going to provide as much as we can, but they still have their hands tied behind their back for so much stuff.
Yeah.
Now, live events, sporting events, things like that. There are a lot of different networks, Fox affiliates that cover hockey, baseball, football, all those other things. ESPN doesn't mean that you get to watch every sports game that you want. So what is Slingbox really giving you for $20 a month
Monday Night Football.
on broadcast?
Yeah.
Okay.
That'll be live.
You're getting what you pay for.
It's
You're getting
basically-
$20 a month. That's such a good price.
To call it what it is, it's a competitor with PlayStation Vue. Like PlayStation announced they're doing a live TV thing similar to this. I think they mentioned more partners, but I'm not sure they mentioned ESPN. And so basically they have like warring cable networks now. This is really strange for these two video game consoles.
So I think what we have is the two extremes trying to meet each other, but I don't think we're going to get it still anytime soon. But maybe it's a good step, and this is what I want to ask you guys: do you think it's a big enough step? We have cable and satellite and DirecTV charging us a lot of money for a lot of channels we don't want and some that we do, right?
Yeah.
And then we have these other services coming out that offer maybe some that we want, some that we maybe don't, but we're paying a lot less, so it's kind of okay. Is this a big enough step towards us being able to just buy the channels we want?
Absolutely. HBO making its own app that you can just pay for HBO individually. I think the next day cable subscriptions are going to drop off so
Yeah.
hard. I think that's huge. I think that's basically where everyone's going.
I watch a lot of shows, and I think the biggest thing is getting those specific channels that house a lot of the shows that you watch. So I think AMC would be a big draw for Walking Dead and, you know, Hell on Wheels and other shows like that. So maybe if they had a system where you could pick which channels you wanted, like if you had more freedom, if you're like, all right, $20 a month nets you these channels,
Yeah.
$25 a month nets you these, kind of a tier-based.
See, we've had that before, and that's evolved into what we have now, which is cable and satellite, right? What you're really looking for, ultimately, the best case scenario here is that you only pay for the programming you want, right?
Which is funny, that brings up a huge thing about baseball. The Dodgers station, Time Warner Cable, has the rights to Dodgers baseball, and they're charging all these people extra money for their cable bill, and they don't even watch
Yep.
Dodger baseball.
Right.
Yet those people are paying for it.
Time Warner is charging them.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, I don't even want to pay for this channel, so like, this is a
And
huge
That's why
problem.
this is so cheap. Is
Yeah.
because we don't need Dodgers. Yeah.
But the contracts are so layered between all of these companies that
Yeah.
the companies themselves are going to be the ones that have to change the game because they hold all the cards. That's why it hasn't changed already.
Yeah.
Right? So in order to get the best of all these different worlds, what we don't necessarily need is for Slingbox to do stuff like this, even though it might be a good deal for a really specific group of people because that's all that they can offer. We really need the game to change at the top, right?
I think this is it. I think this is the game changing. I think we're watching it right now.
I think in order to appease the people that are holding the cards, we're probably going to end up having to spend more than we would like on some sort of solution that allows them to give us our content and just the ones we want, but not necessarily everything else. Right? I think it's too tangled right now.
Yeah, and back to AMC, I feel like they have a big partnership with Netflix because Netflix always gets all of their shows a few months after it's over. So I don't know if
Yeah, I mean, I think that the user experience is probably the main thing that is going to keep cable and satellite going because, now if you want, like let's say like you're Huber and you've got this list of shows, you've got to go and figure out, okay, which of these shows are on Hulu, which are on Netflix, which are on iTunes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like which are on the Sling. It's like you have
yeah.
to. Like you have to be somebody that honestly cares enough to go and seek all of that stuff out. Whereas with normal cable, it's like you can just flip through channels.
This is perfect for you.
Flip through channels, figure out what you like.
Yeah.
If you want to record it, hit the record button, and you're done.
Yeah.
Well, business-wise, it just doesn't make sense and imagine like every channel that you like is owned by something else that owns a lot of different channels, right? And one conglomerate might own a lot of channels you like, but they don't own every single one.
Do you think it'll ever get to a point where you just pay per channel?
I think the
It's
only
like
way
you pick each channel, they all cost differently. Or I
the
don't
only
want this
way
one, I
that you
want
could
this
get
one.
that to happen
This one.
is if you pay a premium, and like the nature of the word premium is that it's more than standard. You're going to be paying premiums for each channel, and you're going to start liking a lot less content unless you feel like paying a lot of money. And combined, that's the thing. I'm kind of glad, a little bit, that the major cable companies haven't figured out a way to do this yet. But we've seen this in all of the in-app purchases and all the things you want to talk about, microtransactions and things of that nature. It's a lot easier to charge us a little money a lot of times than it is to charge us more money now.
So yeah, I mean, while we're getting hot and heavy about our monthly subscriptions, another news story, PS Now, the streaming service on PlayStation, announced its subscription pricing this week. So formerly it was just you pay by your game. I'm streaming this game right now and I'm paying this much money. Now you can subscribe. You can do 1 month for $20 or a 3-month package for $45. That's a lot of money. We're talking about here like $20 a month to stream PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 1 games.
And 3, right? And 3?
And 3.
And 3, yes.
Yeah.
What's strange about it,
Isn't there some kind of 7-day trial or something as well?
There is.
sure.
Just to try it out and make sure it works with your internet connection?
Yeah, exactly, which I think is fantastic, and definitely everyone should do that. What's strange about it is that there are games you can stream individually. You can pick those, like we're just talking about cable networks. I just want to stream this one, I just want to stream
Pretty
this one.
like rent.
Right.
You rent it.
But there's also the subscription games, where if you subscribe, these are the games that you can choose from, and it's a different list, meaning they got different licenses for this game, these games, and this games. And so, I guess first question should be, is that a good price? Can we talk about that price?
I think it's a little high.
It's way high, right?
Yeah, I think 15 would have been a lot more comfortable. I subscribe to GameFly, which is $16 a month. Now you have to go through the hoops of putting it in the mail, getting it back, and going through all that. But you have access to brand new games, all the new games, and rarely is a brand new game unavailable. If you only have that game in your queue and you're just waiting on that brand new game, you usually get it within a couple days. And this selection is it seems dated. I think it's perfect for people that skipped like PlayStation 3, that didn't have a PS3 or a PS2, and PS4 is maybe their first or only second console. I think this is beautiful for those people that can just pay the $45, get all these games for 3 months, and just burn through them quick, and then be done with it. That's what I would do.
But you don't see it as something that should continue. You don't see it like a year-round. This
I'm going to subscribe to PlayStation Now for a year. I don't really see.
Yeah, actually,
that.
I do kind of get that feeling that, this is something that you would do for a limited amount of time. Like, if I'm going to spend that amount of money, then I'm just going to burn through these backlogs for however much time. And to be fair, I mean, $20 is about what you would spend on a lot of used games. It's, or if you would go out and buy 4 or 5 used games.
You're right. The value is there.
It's just it's just a weird thing because it still feels sort of unproven to me, the whole streaming aspect of it.
Right.
So I guess it's out there now and it's worth looking into, but it's.
Are you going to try it?
It's strange to it's strange to play a game and then never really own it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess we can compare it directly to Netflix. Because again, it's not the games that are out now most of the time. It's games that have been out for a while, like Netflix, brings you the movies, and not even the cream of the crop, to be serious. Those games that have been out for a while, and so I guess what's encouraging is that it is trying to capture that aftermarket for games. This will be money directly going to those people who made those games. Well, the publishers.
probably.
the
Trying to
publishers
attack
anyway.
used games again.
Yeah.
I think Darksiders 2 isn't there unless
Right,
they're going
yeah,
to some
yeah.
other company entirely.
The people who own the license. The money's going to those people who have the license, those poor people who own licenses. But as opposed, to just like all of the money being at GameStop, it's like a second revenue source for old games, which I think is encouraging. Just very expensive, I feel like. Matt, do you think they need to offer more games or make it less money?
I think they plan to offer more games, and I think that they chose their prices very carefully. I think that they're not planning on absolutely everybody and their mother signing up to PlayStation Now. And honestly, I think this says, even though we already had our PS Now beta and alpha, I think this is still a beta towards where PlayStation might be going. And to be honest with you, not just PlayStation, but everything. I mean, you look at how Netflix changed the game for movies in general and TV, right? Like,
Put all the video stores out of business, then jack up the price.
no, they didn't even jack up the price. It's just look how much more
Netflix
service
totally
they're
did.
offering you, right? When Netflix first started and they only started charging you for instant like $6.99 or something like that, and it went up a couple of bucks a month or whatever. But look at how much more they put on there. Now I know that they sometimes have problems. Their contracts go up and some of your favorite content goes down, and you get mad at them. Fine, that's the business they're in. That sucks, but since Netflix went into business, especially with their instant streaming, almost every single major network has started putting their own content online for free with advertisements, figuring out how to make that stuff more available to us as opposed to us having to DVR it, or even back in the day, VCR recording stuff. Like, we never had that stuff to begin with. Nobody thought it was a priority until Netflix boomed. And then suddenly clones started happening, and suddenly this is what we want.
Yeah.
Right? So I understand PlayStation's kind of initiative to try to make sure that if this is where it's going, they want to get it right first. And they've spent a lot of time putting this together, right? And they waited because hardware wasn't right for it. Like, they talked about this stuff when PlayStation 3 was still out.
Oh yeah, I mean it was Gaikai. It was previously Gaikai. Basically.
Exactly.
We're still rolling
and,
off
you know,
that.
the hardware wasn't ready, and they didn't want to put it out because they just weren't doing it right, or they just couldn't do it right enough.
Yeah.
And now we're having it now. Like, they put it out in the beta. They put it out. They were very honest about it. Don't use Wi-Fi. Your hardware is what the problem here. It's not our service, but we're just waiting for it to catch up. And meanwhile, this is where we think it's going. I'm very glad that they're taking the time to try to work out all of the bugs. Now, you might look at that as a gamer and say, well, I buy 6 to 12 games a year. This isn't worth it for me. It's another $45 to play games that I already own. It's not for you. It's for people who want to catch up, like Hubert was talking about, and it's for Sony to figure out how to perfect that system before they even consider taking their entire platform in that direction.
Well,
That's the way
and
look at it.
I think too, it's as they mentioned when they first announced it, it's how do we deal with the backwards compatibility issue, and I think that's part of it. If you've already gotten rid of your PS2 or your PS3, and you want to go and you want to play Dragon Quest VIII, then it's probably not on there yet, but it's like
It's definitely not.
Yeah, you
If it was, I'd sign up.
you start streaming it, and especially for certain types of games, because I think that's one of the barriers too. Is some games it's going to work better than others. A game that's turn-based is going to work way better on streaming because it doesn't have to be perfectly synced to what you're doing.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're going
Street
to play
Fighter is
a
ridiculous.
fighting game or a racing game or something like that, it's probably not a good idea.
Yeah.
I'm surprised there's no PS Plus kind of loyalty or discount or anything.
That's a fair point. You're basically
Yeah, if
two
you're
subscriptions at
double
that point.
subscribing, yeah.
So
I have a feeling.
that kind of shocked me.
I have a feeling in that the only thing I can guess is that they probably assume that if you're already paying for PlayStation Plus, you're not really in the market for PlayStation Now.
That's interesting. Why do you think that?
Well, if you're paying for PlayStation Plus, that means you're consistently buying games, and you're also consistently getting free games. Mm-hmm. It almost feels like PlayStation Now is a somewhat competitor, at least while the PlayStation 3 is still relevant, to PlayStation Now.
I mean,
Because you're still getting
PlayStation Now
games on PS3 that would probably be pretty suited for buying PlayStation Now. So buying both doesn't make sense, but one or the other makes sense to me.
Yeah, I think.
It could also
more
be like a
expensive,
really
though.
easy way to budget out. Like if you have kids or something, it's like, $20 a month, and then they can play as many games as they want. You
Yeah.
know?
Go
great
ahead and
for
pick up a
kids,
game
yeah.
on PlayStation Now. Yeah.
And the other two, the kind of other side of it is that this is not just a PS4 thing.
Right.
Like they're showing TVs and things like that.
It's on
at CES.
Samsung TVs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all of the games that you can play as of right now, and probably going forward for a good time until they figure this particular detail out, is that you don't need PlayStation Plus to play the multiplayer of any of these games. Now, I don't know if there's multiplayer available for all of them or any of them. Actually, I haven't done that part of the research. But if they plan on offering it for these games, if it's not available now, how do you get past that, right? If there's probably going to be a PS Plus version of this going on if they start streaming PS4 games and include the multiplayer and all the functions you need Plus for. Because obviously you'd have to pay for both if you want to take advantage of both. So where are they going to go from here? Are they going to tie it into Plus? Probably for that reason alone.
So do you think there'll be tiers of Plus then, maybe? 'Cause, I
Probably.
mean,
I don't know.
there's also PlayStation View, a whole other subscription.
Do you remember when they first announced Plus, or before they announced Plus? I think details leaked on Plus. And
Okay.
There were shots of some kind of a PowerPoint presentation or something like that.
I don't remember this, but keep going.
Heard about PlayStation Plus, and I don't know if they were calling it Plus yet. They were talking about membership services, and PlayStation's membership services were supposed to have tiers.
Oh, I kind of do remember that. I think it's a good thing it doesn't, to be honest.
Yes. I think it's very well suited right now for what it is, but I would not be surprised to hear about, maybe even by E3, plans to say, well, we're going to integrate all of these cool things. Thanks for helping us test it. That
Yeah,
sort of thing.
it only makes sense, much like how Huber's paying for internet and television to the same place. Like, it makes sense to combine them. They should obviously do that. But you're right, I think they're just figuring it out still. My first impression is I think they should probably lose money on this, on PlayStation Now, in order to just get people doing it. Much like the Netflix jacking up the price once the video stores are closed, like you said. I think that's probably what they should do. I think it definitely should be cheaper, in my opinion.
Well, if it were cheaper, maybe they would lose money. Maybe they don't anticipate enough people paying for it.
Yeah. Right, we're in the baby phases. It's a zygote. Let's do our closing bet. Let's wrap up this episode.
All right.
Here we go. Speaking about subscription services, if you subscribe to PlayStation Plus, Duke Nukem 3D Megaton Edition was released for subscription this week. I want to stop saying for free. Like, your free game this week is Duke Nukem. It's like you paid for that.
It's free because I'm a lifetime PS Plus member, so.
Stop. Yes, no. This is
That would be funny. It
Depends on what you think you're paying for.
They sold a lifetime subscription.
How much would it be? Let's say it's $500. Would you lifetime subscribe?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty
10
cool.
years, 10 years of PlayStation.
Yeah.
And
All
then
right.
some.
So we haven't done one of these in a while. I like to look at the trophy percentages for like how many people who have this game have this trophy, and so it's like this percentage.
This is funny.
At this point next week, what will the PS4 trophy percentage be for the trophy Shake It Baby, Tip an Exotic Dancer? You earn this trophy by tipping an exotic dancer. So it's the beginning of a new season.
Okay.
Matt,
17%.
you may choose whether you want to go first or last.
I just went first.
Yeah.
17%.
Okay, 17%. Bloodworth. How many people have earned that trophy?
23%.
Sorry, 23?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is this like Price is Right? Like if you the next highest, but if you overbid.
So now you do 22 and I'll do 24.
I'll do 24.
So what happens if we all overbid? Is this still the closest?
No, it's whatever's close.
It's whatever is closest. All right, and so I will do 22 to lock Bloodworth out of that
Oh my
first
God.
win.
I feel good about this one.
We've never done that. We'll never do that again. That's rotten. That's poor
That's what
sportsmanship.
happens when you get us together.
Because no, it's obviously, I'm mad you made me do that because it's obviously way more than that. It is so easy to get that trophy. It's going to
But
be
do you
like,
know how many people download the game that
first-
don't even play it?
The first stripper, though, is not in the first stage.
hold on, let me lock those in. Keep going.
So I don't know how long people are going to play. They might just hop in, mess around for a little bit, and then never
that makes
play
it a
again.
smart bet. You're right.
It's
With
in
the
a-
free games, you're not as motivated to go through it.
I think the first stripper, it's in like the third or fourth stage.
See, I thought she was on like the first stage.
Yeah.
I'd be willing
Hollywood
to bet.
Holocaust, not there.
I would be willing to bet,
Okay.
by the way, and I don't know when they take this into account. If you add it to your library versus download it versus play it. I would say more than half of the people who just have Plus that got it, like add it to the library, download it, don't even play it. If those count.
I think it's not till you start the game where it starts your
Yeah, I
trophy
don't understand
data.
how they calculate them.
Yeah.
No, so it'll ride pretty heavily on that. I think we all overbid, in my opinion.
No. You want to know my honest bet? My honest bet is 70%.
No.
No
Way
way.
too high. Way too high. Way too high.
See,
That's
now I
insane.
want to unlock the bets and go with 70.
Yeah, no, you better get people to play it.
I think 20 to 30 is a really good bet. Somewhere in there.
I think it's 7. I'm super mad that we made a deal. We had to block out blood. What if blood still wins and it is 23%? Then there'll be no stopping him. Let's talk about the bets from 3 weeks ago, last month's bets. Oh, this is gonna be like our first time finding out live who wins. I wanted to do something completely random. So the bet was, what will be the last digit on the views of that week's episode of GT Time?
Oh, digit. That's right.
Yeah.
Wait, but when do you lock it in? So you're checking now, I see.
Yeah, so, right, we're gonna see right now what the views are. Hold on, I gotta turn off airplane mode. Okay, we're getting there.
Goodness.
This is really exciting.
Were you on an airplane?
Yeah, so I put on airplane mode just so it doesn't like buzz the whole time.
I feel like we need a telestrator for this.
A telestrator.
You watch
Just
sports.
keep going.
Yeah, that's for like highlighting plays and things.
Yeah.
What would you use it for in this instance?
Circling the number, Kyle.
Oh, like people, you're just gonna have to take my word for it. Okay, clicking on shows on the GameTrailers.com website.
Okay.
Okay.
It's going to take forever.
No, it's not taking forever. We'll see how deep GT Time is on the list. Oh, we're on number 4. This is cool. Good promotion.
You're welcome.
Okay, here it comes. Loading now. We have our spinning thing. The views. 38,912. Which makes the winning bet.
Ian, you got it? I think it's Ian. I think it's me.
Yeah, Ian bet 1 and Bloodworth's seat, which is closest to 2. So Bloodworth starts out the year with 1 point.
Wow, well done.
Good job, Ian.
We tried so hard to block it. All right, can I change my bet to 70 now that we already blocked? Oh, okay,
They're
all right, it's
locked.
locked in. If it's locked in, it's locked. Oh my God. I'm so mad about that. I'm so mad. So Bloodworth, as the winner of the first bet of the year of 2015, you may plug any video you want on our website and also sign us off.
Yeah, so we're doing a crazy weird thing this week, and hopefully this will lead into doing more of these. But our countdown this week is mirroring a Screw Attack countdown. So we both have the top 10 Wii games. So you can check out our list and you can check out Screw Attack's list and compare to see how we differ.
Yep, both sites will link to each other as well, so if you check out one, you'll be able to check out the other. Just look for the link.
And I think we're being openly competitive about it.
Oh, it's a battle.
Yeah.
It's versus Screw
It's
Attack.
versus Screw Attack.
Yeah.
Would you say it's versus Screw Attack?
I don't know.
It's versus.
It's
But it's great to
versus.
just see, talking to those guys and working with them again. So
Yeah, and they're gonna put Wii Sports on it. They're gonna look like.
Oh yeah, yeah, they're totally gonna
Yeah.
do it.
They're gonna be like, you can't deny Wii Sports. I wanted Wii
But it kind of
Sports
goes
on
back to, back in the day, it was like we were always trying to avoid, it's like, no, don't do that list. That's
Yeah.
a serious list. You do funny lists, we'll do serious lists. And now it's like, no, we're going to intentionally do the same list
Yeah,
and
it's
see
pretty
how
exciting.
it shakes down. So, pretty cool.
That would have been a good bet.
here are all of
What?
our Twitter things.
How many games overlap?
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And well, and where they place, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Twitter handles all over here somewhere. And leave comments. Definitely want to hear from you guys in the new year. And
Oh yeah, give us more.
More what?
Subjects. We need more. Well, you're the one who started this conversation.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah. Leave. Even though we sometimes cut them out.
Yeah.
Yeah, leave
They don't
suggestions
always
for
make it
things
in,
for us
yeah.
to talk about. Yeah, have a great week.
I love.